I spent a significant part of my life in an unhappy marriage with Caspian. In our final moments, we exchanged harsh words, vowing never to encounter each other in another lifetime. He blamed me for tying him down with our marriage and children, claiming it cost him his dream of becoming a singer in New York. I resented him for neglecting his ailing parents and our kids, leaving me to shoulder the burden while he enjoyed life outside. In our shared resentment, we were given a second chance. When our eyes met in a crowd, we turned away without a second thought. This time, I hope we don't look back with regret. The day I decided to change my major, my dad glanced at me from the study and nodded approvingly. Good, with your grades, you should aim for a top university. Stop running after that Parker boy. Mom overheard from the kitchen, hurried over, and pulled Dad away with a stern look. Watching them leave, I felt a sudden sting of emotion. In my previous life, I had run out at night to meet Caspian at the train station. My parents died in a car accident while searching for me, and I never got to say goodbye. Fighting back tears, I clicked the confirmation button for my major change without hesitation. In my past life, Caspian, my childhood sweetheart, abruptly announced he wanted to pursue a singing career in New York. Before that, he always said his dream was to be with me and attend the same college. I sacrificed my high score to apply to a second-tier college with him, but just days before we received our acceptance letters, he chose to chase his dream in New York. His sick parents came to my door at night, pleading with me to find their son. I went, leading to my parents' accident as they worriedly followed me. When Caspian returned, his parents told him he owed me for my parents' deaths, so he was obligated to compensate me. They pressured him into an engagement, planning to marry right after college. But in my second year, I became pregnant, forcing me to pause my studies. We hastily got our marriage certificate. I gave birth and cared for the child. 2 years flew by. I was eager to return to school, but his sick parents moved in with us for treatment. Caspian said I should understand. His parents had sacrificed for his education and now needed care. As for him, he had to work and support the family. For his sake, I didn't mention that his $3,500 monthly salary barely covered formula and household expenses. Eventually, I sold my family's old house to pay for his parents' treatment and raise our kids. While I sacrificed my education and managed the household, he spent his salary on friends and music, insisting it was for his dream. The pressure suffocated me. After failed attempts to communicate, we fought constantly. He accused me of being narrow-minded and blamed me for dragging him back, saying he could have been a star in New York. He accused me of using my parents' deaths as emotional leverage, forcing him to marry me. I retaliated, calling his dream foolish and his singing talent non-existent. When he mentioned my parents' death, I snapped and lunged at him, only to be pushed away. After that, Caspian started staying out. His parents blamed me for upsetting him, forgetting they had begged me to find him. In that broken life, I tightened my belt and worked odd jobs to support the family. But my kids never warmed up to me, clinging to Caspian instead. I thought they'd eventually understand, but they grew up, married, and wanted to live with Caspian, treating me coldly. Mom, you controlled us too much. We're done with lectures. Dad's dreams were crushed by you. We're taking him to New York to chase them again. Grandpa and Grandma were right. You want everyone to live by your rules. You're selfish. I never expected such words from my children. Devastated, I returned home to find Caspian packing, gloating about leaving me for a better life. After 20 years of managing the household, I was left with accusations of selfishness and control. Why could Caspian be so carefree, ignoring family responsibilities yet becoming the hero to our kids? I shoved him, and he, stunned, grabbed a vase and threw it at me. How dare you? I'll beat you senseless. Our deaths were retribution for our mutual violence. As we collapsed, I prayed never to meet Caspian again in another life. The day I was reborn was the day I changed my major. Seeing my parents still with me, I resolved not to get involved with Caspian again. After finals, parties followed one after another. After one gathering, I saw Caspian laughing with some friends nearby. I heard Caspian's dropping out to become a singer in New York. Well, living the dream. We should get his autograph now before he becomes a star. Celeste, weren't you and Caspian childhood friends? Did you know about his plan? A friend nudged me, and I glanced through the crowd, meeting Caspian's eyes. In that moment, I knew Caspian had been reborn too. I don't know. I have to go. I turned away without hesitation. If he wants to go to New York, let him. What does his life have to do with me? As Caspian's departure day neared, I told my parents I missed Grandma and wanted to visit her to see the new ducklings. They doted on me and quickly packed for the trip. Just as we were leaving, Aunt Vera opened her door and paused. Heading out, Dad nodded cheerfully. Our daughter wants to visit her grandma. We'll be gone a few days. Aunt Vera smiled, watching us leave. I pretended to be casual, but inside, I was furious, clenching my fists to hide my emotions. In my past life, I naively believed Aunt Vera cared for me. Later, I realized she had selfish motives from the start. She coveted our house, pushing for my marriage with Caspian after my parents' death. Grieving and vulnerable, I let Aunt Vera's kindness lower my guard. Liking Caspian, I agreed to the marriage. Little did I know, it was a calculated move on their part. I took a deep breath, hiding my slight tremors of anger, and talked to my parents about the new pony at Grandma's. But I noticed Caspian's hurried steps. He must have realized I had been reborn too, forcing him to hasten his escape plan. At Grandma's, we happily enjoyed dinner when Mom got a call from Aunt Vera. Caspian insists on going to New York to be a singer, refusing school. He's desperate. Can you have Celeste come back to talk to him? He listens to her. The same request as before. Mom looked troubled. Being in the countryside, returning wasn't easy. I calmly put down my chopsticks and took the phone. Aunt Vera, this is Caspian's decision. I can't interfere. Even if I did, he'd resent me. I think you should respect his choice. I hung up decisively, blocking her number. My parents were stunned by my swift actions, but Grandma urged us to eat. She reminded us that other people's issues are their own karma, and we shouldn't interfere. Grandma was spot on. After dinner, I played with the puppy in the yard, while my parents approached. Celeste, what's going on with you lately? Mom hesitated. You seem different. Dad didn't speak, but looked worried. Their concern made me teary-eyed, and I wiped away actual tears. Mom, Dad, I had a dream. I fabricated a dream, recounting the events of my past life. Hearing how the Parkers manipulated me after their deaths, Dad's face turned dark as a pot bottom. They trusted me, especially since the story started with Caspian's decision to go to New York, initiated by Aunt Vera's plea for me to find him. Celeste, what's been going on with you lately? Mom hesitated. I just feel like you're different. Dad didn't say anything but looked at me with concern. Their worried faces made my chest tighten, and I wiped my eyes, surprised to find tears there. Mom, Dad, I had a dream, I said. I told them it was just a dream and shared everything that had happened in my previous life. When they heard how the Parker family had taken advantage of me after they were gone, Dad's face looked thunderous. They always believed me, especially since I started by saying it all began when Caspian wanted to go to New York, and Aunt Vera asked me to find someone. They also understood why I suddenly wanted to visit Grandma and why I refused to look for Caspian. My sweet girl, my precious, Mom said. Mom was always quick to tears. Even knowing it was just a dream, she quickly hugged me, her tears falling onto my head, full of love and care. Dad took a moment, then made a decision. Celeste having this dream might be a sign that the Parker family's presence is harmful to us. I've decided we're moving back. We'll keep our distance from them. I didn't expect my parents to support me this much. Emotion welled up again, and I nodded, tears spilling over. I hugged Mom tightly, soaking in her warmth. We stayed in the countryside for half a month, and I noticeably got a bit more tan. Before moving, we had to stay in the old house for a while. Just as we arrived, Aunt Vera opened her door, her eyes red from crying, with traces of bitterness she couldn't hide.